Enough with the boom boom booms and the dum dum dums already, huh? Jeez. Anyway, okay.
Angel 1, immediate launch.
S.I.G.
Angels 2 and 3, immediate launch.
Spectrum is green.
For those of you who are kind of wondering what the hell is going on with this video, allow me to extrapolate. Captain Scarlet was the creation of the, unfortunately late, because he just died a few weeks ago, great Jerry Anderson, who along with his wife Sylvia are pretty much responsible for my early upbringing, right up to the point where George Lucas took over. And along with Captain Scarlet, they created TV shows, the likes of Thunderbirds, Joe 90, which was about a secret agent child who killed people. And earlier on there were things like Fireball XL5 and Stingray. Aquamarina. And then in the 70s, moving forward in time, because Captain Scarlet came out in 1967. For most of you that's like another age. It's like Middle Earth. He had shows like UFO and Space 1999, which were live action. Captain Scarlet, Thunderbirds and all these shows were all puppet shows. Literally puppets on strings, which you could see quite clearly. But I was always attracted to Captain Scarlet. Well, when I say I was attracted to Captain Scarlet, it was the show Captain Scarlet that I favoured, shall we say. Although in saying that, he was quite a dish. And he spoke with a Cary Grant accent for some unknown reason. I never quite figured that one out. But anyway, the puppets in the likes of Captain Scarlet and I think Joe 90 were properly proportioned puppets. Properly proportioned puppets. That's a good one. Whereas in Thunderbirds and Stingray, they had these larger than life heads. I don't know why they did that. It kind of made it kind of comical and cartoonish, but these were more realistic. You know this whole thing about, you know, kids watching violent TV shows and films and video games? The opening sequence, the opening titles to Captain Scarlet, it's actually from your point of view. You're creeping down this dark alleyway and you can hear, you know, somebody kicks a bottle and a cat screams, and these bright spotlights come on. I mean, I can still remember the noise of them to this day. They're a little bit different from that, but you know what I mean. And they come on and you can see Captain Scarlet. What do you then promptly do? You then spray him with machine gun fire. But Captain Scarlet is invincible, you see, thanks to our run-in with their enemies, the Mysterons, who come from Mars, as baddies did in those days. But, as I say, he's indestructible, so all these bullets are spraying everywhere. Doesn't affect him one little bit. What does he do? He picks up a gun, shoots you dead. And we just watched that, you know, as kids, as harmless fun. I mean, this whole thing about how it corrupts the minds, I mean, we turned out alright, didn't we? No, I'm making a video. we'll do that later on, okay? We'll burn it later on. Oh, we'll burn it all. And of all the vehicles that were in these shows, and there were many, I mean, they were populated by some of the most amazing designs you've ever seen. Cleverly, well thought out, to the point where it's a little uncanny. I mean, the Angel Interceptor. If you look at the design of this vehicle, this jet from 1967, it's actually the World Army Air Force Viper. Now, long before Battlestar Galactica, even the Glenn A. Larson Battlestar Galactica nonsense, this was the original Viper, built by International Engineering, no less. But look at the design of this thing. Right? You've got a delta wing configuration, you've got canards up front, and you've got these air intakes just underneath the cockpit area. What does that remind you of? I did a little exercise on a forum called Brit Modeler, where I took a picture of an angel, and very crudely, I must say, and I'll see if I can find this for the next video, photoshopped it in about 4 stages by removing this, removing that, adding something into a Typhoon. Or I suppose I could have done it with a Raphael as well. But you know, 1967, this works. This could work. You know, some of the things they come away with in those shows, you know, it's science fiction, but that could work. Anyway, isn't that beautiful, that Roycross box art? I mean, I'm so glad they didn't go with the new CGI stuff. This is good. I like that. I'm glad they stuck with it. So originally my intention was to build the Viper, because that's what I'm going to call it from now on, because that's its name, alongside a Typhoon. You know, a side-by-side build, but then show the Typhoon in Spectrum colours, you know, the white with the Spectrum roundel and whatnot, and the Viper in RAF colours with the low-vis markings. But I thought better of that and decided, as I mentioned in the last video, to go to town on the Viper and try being the operative word, some super detailing, which I made a start on and I got it wrong, apparently. How would we say wrong? I suppose we would. I post my builds on a website called Brit Modeler, and they have their work in progress sections, and I posted these in the sci-fi section, and you know, very positive responses. But one chap did point out, by putting up pictures that he'd photoshopped from his Captain Scarlet annual, which actually showed cutaway sections on a Viper, that I had in fact got the engine completely and utterly wrong. I had designed an engine as a single stem engine, but the actual Viper has, as you can see by that sort of tapered shape of the body, 2 power plants that then merge into one sort of, for the outlet can, for the exhaust can, or the burner can I should say. But as I say, I designed it as a single stem engine. But you know what? This is science fiction. Fiction being the operative word. And in my world, this is the World Army Air Force Viper Mark II with the upgraded single stem power plant, the Rolls-Royce Titan, as I'm going to call it, because I've actually put quite a bit of work into this and I don't want to discard it. And I quite like it actually, which is unusual for me to like anything I've done. And the thing is, it actually kind of works. I didn't just throw things together willy-nilly. It is designed to actually sort of fit with the vehicle. In that this section here, which is actually from HMS Hood, I think. I bought a whole load of old ship kits off eBay for an as of yet unnamed science fiction project, but that was the reason I kind of bought them, so they could be used like this. So this chimney section from a ship somewhere has these presumably outlets for the chimney, but these actually work, because they're on both sides, these actually work as kind of intakes. They kind of line up with the air intakes of the jet, so they could be fed into this. No. And I've got these elbow supports here, which kind of fit approximately to the sort of the midsection of the jet. And I'm going to cut away the appropriate panels here, because that's where it would actually attach to the jet, as it were. I don't know. And then I've dressed it up with lots of sort of copper tubing and the plastic rod and whatnot, just to sort of give it that kind of jet engine-y look. I did use some one-line reference for that, and I'd say it's kind of worked out okay for a scratch built engine. I quite enjoyed doing the heat staining on the just next to the burner can. But so that's what I'm doing with the engine. Right or wrong, does it matter? No. And I'd cut the spine off the aircraft because I was going to have that as the avionics bay, but it turns out that's where the fuel tanks are, which I can still do. I'll put fuel tanks in there. The avionics and all the radars and sensitive equipment is actually all housed in the nose cone, which is this thing. So that ain't going to be happening anytime soon because that's a solid piece of plastic, and it's just going to remain a nose cone. So I cut this side section away with the intentions of showing what I thought were machine guns, but they're not. They're actually you can just, well, I'll show you a picture. That's actually the air-to-air or air-to-ground missile launchers. So I'm going to show. I've kind of figured out ways, or maybe design something that looks like the tray pops out and slides down so that you can add and remove missiles, as it were. And I've kind of got a little avionics bay here because it's it's the Mark II, and that's where the Mark II has its avionics. And of course, you saw in the little clip at the start where the angels are kind of inserted through the underside of the aircraft. And remember, I was talking about I was going to get a resin cockpit for it. Well, it still hasn't arrived yet, and I think I might actually cancel it because I might just scratch build the cockpit. I mean, it's a very simple looking cockpit, and because I've kind of encroached onto the inside of the aircraft, that might sort of foul where the resin cockpit goes. So it'll probably be easier for me to build one now myself. But in my Viper, this whole section, I'm going to put heavyish panel lines here and here, because that whole section now goes up and fits into the aircraft with the Angel sitting inside. That was the other thing, I had to rescribe, well, not rescribe because it was raised panel lines, but I'm going to rescribe the entire airframe. I have actually made a start on it, but because there was so much sanding, when I put the intakes on, they were almost on a different plane, if you pardon the expression, the way they glued together, so there's a lot of sanding needed there. Which took away a lot of my panel lines, but I'll do that when it's finished. But anyway, that's where we are so far on the Angel. It's coming along nice. I'm having a huge amount of fun with this, as I say, because there's no real technical restrictions on what I'm doing. Yeah, that's where we are, and we'll leave that until part 2. I'm going to try and show the engine on a little sort of, I don't know what you would call it, little tug, a little tractor, whatever, which is going to have to be scratch built. And I'm trying, where possible, to retain that Jerry Anderson-ness about it. These things were designed in the 60s to look futuristic, but with that 60s mentality. So I've now got to think what things looked like in the 60s. It's kind of a vicious wee circle. Because we have all this high-tech stuff available to us today, but I've got to think in terms of a world where there was no electronics or flat-screen TVs or iPads and crap like that. So that'll be fun. And as usual, a little update on Rob's little tank that he got me for Christmas, the little T-34. I've made this tiny little diorama on a Pringles top. And I've been busy integrating it with its environment so that it's bedded down in the mud, the little dead tree there. I was going to have this little bomb crater filled with water, but I don't have any of that material that you can use for water, so I don't know. We'll wait and see. But anyway, it's coming along. Just a little bit of, as I say, more blending in with its environment, and we'll soon be calling that one done. So, that's it for this update. We'll see you shortly, hopefully for part 2 of something, be it the Hellcat, the Viper, the X-Wing, the Handley Page 42, or a couple of other wee things that I've got on the go. But before we go, just time for one more